Kate back. It has been a big break since my last Cinderella Chronicles video. In case you are new to my channel, I decided, I think last summer it was, basically that since Cinderella is my favorite fairy tale, I wanted to read as many picture books as I could, read as many novel retellings of Cinderella as I could, and watch as many film adaptations as I could get my hands on. It has been really fun. It has petered out a bit on the reading front. As far as the picture books go, I will compile a video eventually. I just got so many different books from the library, and then it was hard to divide them up evenly with videos featuring, you know, films and then novelizations. So I think it'll just look a little bit differently now, but I definitely want to continue with the project, and I'm still having a lot of fun with it. So I will just be doing, I won't have like picture books, novels, and films in each video. In this video, I have 3 films I want to talk about, all very different. And the first one is called Ella Cinders, and this was made in 1926. It's a silent film that a lovely subscriber told me about, I think in one of my Cinderella Chronicles videos. And this stars Colleen Moore, and I am so enamored with her now. I am not one who's very into silent film. It's a little bit lost on me, and I know obviously it's a really special art form, you know, since it's some of the first movies that are out there. But I just think it's not always for me. I did watch the 1914 Mary Pickford Cinderella, but I enjoyed it, you know, kind of as much as I was expecting to. However, with Ella Cinders, this really swept me off my feet. There was a picture book version of Cinderella that I talked about a few videos back called Ella's Last Chance, and it was in the flapper era, and I loved that. And so this was basically a film version of that, Cinderella in the flapper era. And Colleen Moore, like I said, she was just amazing, and how she could convey so much emotion, not being able to use her voice, was incredible. She just was magnetic. There was just something so charismatic about her personality, and that just drew me in so much to this story. So some of the typical elements are there, where, you know, Cinderella is living with her stepmother, or Ella Cinders. She's living with her stepmother and 2 stepsisters, and they're just awful to her. They're so mean, and she does, you know, all the cooking and cleaning, and they don't show a bit of gratitude. So she's really living this life of drudgery. She has a really close guy friend who drives an ice truck, which I loved. And his name is Weightlifter. So I know it said at some point in the movie what his like given name was, but for the beginning part, it was Weightlifter. And that actor was Lloyd Hughes. And there ends up being a beauty contest. So Ella wants to join the beauty contest, and she pays a photographer to take her picture, and then she heads off to Hollywood. In this version, though, there was no fairy godmother, which I realized that the fairy godmother element is one of my favorite elements in Cinderella. So I definitely was missing that part of it, but I just love the like larger than life feel of it. And like I said, Colleen Moore was just such the star of the show, and it was so fun to watch her. And kind of, there was lots of physical comedy to this. And then once she's in Hollywood, there's, you know, some bits with filming movies and all of the logistics that goes into that. And yeah, just some really like really funny physical humor bits. And in the end, Weightlifter is the Prince Charming, and so he comes to Hollywood to tell her that he wants them to be married, and it just had a really sweet ending. So yes, this one definitely exceeded my expectations. I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I watched it, and I'm glad that someone told me about it, because I don't know if I would have found out about it otherwise. Next in the lineup, let's fast forward to the year 1976, so 50 years later, and I watched The Slipper and the Rose. This one starred Richard Chamberlain as Prince Edward, or Prince Charming, and Gemma Craven as Cinderella. So this was one that I felt kind of underwhelmed by the two leads. There were several elements about this retelling that I really enjoyed, but just the acting I felt was not up to par in this one. This one definitely got points for three things. It got points for the sets. They were amazing. They were elaborate and beautiful and just looked so fairy tale-ish. I like it when sets are very over the top and like very fancy looking, all of that. I really enjoyed that about it. The costumes were very over the top. I have decided that it is my favorite for Cinderella to wear the color blue. I just think most Cinderellas they have are blonde, and I just think blue suits a blue dress suits a blonde very well. But in this one, I do make an exception. I really liked Cinderella's look in this one. She wore a light pink dress, and then they all wore kind of the white powdered wigs. That's the sort of aesthetic they were going for in this one. So sort of French, and it really worked. Oh, and she also had huge gems in her hair. So I really like, if you're going to do a fairy tale retelling, like do the costumes and sets like way over the top. Huge dresses, huge castles, and just like crazy jewelry and all of that. I just love it. So I really liked the costumes in this. And I loved Cinderella's look when she went to the ball. Also, this movie gets lots of points for the fairy godmother. I found her so charming and winsome and just such a lovely character. She's one of my favorite fairy godmothers in all of the adaptations I've seen now. I really liked that. And she was played by Annette Crosby. I had not seen her in anything else. And yeah, she just had such a pleasant demeanor to her. And so really worked as kind of this mother figure to Cinderella. Cinderella had a pet dog in this one, which I liked. The beginning was very interesting because it starts out with the prince, not with Cinderella. And then eventually it pans over to Cinderella and she is headed back from her father's funeral. And this really sets the tone, sets the stage for just how cruel the stepmother and stepsisters are. They're heading back from the funeral and Cinderella starts to go up to her room and the stepmother says, "Where are you going? You have no money now. You have nothing. You're my servant. Go to the kitchen and make us a meal." And that is Cinderella's life from there on. So she's constantly, cooking and cleaning and sewing for her stepmother and stepsisters. The times that she does find solace are when she gets to walk outside. And there are some beautiful woodland scenes in this. I really appreciated that. And at one point there is a really awkward interaction though, where she's eavesdropping on the prince and his servant, who's kind of his best friend, singing. And they see her and she runs away awkwardly. The parts about this that I didn't enjoy as much were the music. I haven't, grown up watching this, so I wasn't all that compelled by the music in it. It just seemed really kind of average, didn't stand out to me like anything. And then, like I said, the acting, I just wasn't all that excited about it, except for the fairy godmother. I really liked her. There was something about her I really enjoyed. And I did appreciate, for those of you who have seen the Wind in the Willows TV series that was out in the 80s, or maybe it was even the late 70s. Anyhow, the guy who does the voice of Badger is the king in this movie. And I had also seen him in the BBC's Martin Chuzzlewit. So I was amused to see him in this role. There was a fair amount of humor, which I appreciated. I always really like it when there can be humor put into a fairy tale retelling. It's kind of this extra little cherry on top. So yeah, I did enjoy this one, and there were some elements, like I said, the costumes and the sets were fantastic. But other than that, I'm not really all that enthusiastic about it. The last film that I watched, and I think my favorite out of these three, is called The Glass Slipper. This was filmed in 1955, and it stars Leslie Caron as Cinderella, and then Michael Wilding as Prince Charles. So this definitely had a prince I really liked more. In The Slipper and the Rose, especially his hair really bothered me. It was just, he was always wearing a bow in his hair, and it just was not my style. Whereas this prince, he did have kind of ornate hair, but he still seemed very masculine, and he had just like this like masculine quality about him that not all the princes do in Cinderella retellings. So yes, I really liked both the lead actors in this one. They really played up kind of the awkward element of Cinderella in this one. She was just this really kind of like pouty Cinderella, but for some reason I really liked it. I thought it really worked. I guess maybe I like having variety, but she just made it clear she was very unhappy about her state in life. You never meet her father in this one. You only know the stepmother and stepsisters. Stepmother and stepsisters were like normal, totally acceptable. I would rate them. Nothing really stood out about them to me. Yes, I really enjoyed all of Cinderella's kind of wandering around the grounds in this one, just spending time outside to be away from her house that she can't stand to be in. I also just, like I said, I really liked the prince in this one. He had a fair amount of personality. He had a very like playful, fun personality, and there's a couple musical numbers in this which I liked. It didn't feel like there were too many. Whereas like in The Slipper and the Rose, I kind of wanted to fast forward through a fair amount. But in this, it was little enough that I felt like I really enjoyed it. The thing that I wasn't quite sure about in this one was the fairy godmother. She was just very quirky. And when it comes time for the ball, she steals a dress for Cinderella. And it was just kind of awkward because then when Cinderella's at the ball, someone recognizes their own dress and wants to know what it's doing on this girl who they don't even know. So that bit I think wasn't my favorite. I just feel like the fairy godmother's just supposed to be very magical, and can just transform everything. The one thing I didn't like as much in this one was I like Cinderella to look completely and utterly transformed when she's Cinderella. And in this one, Cinderella, the character has a pixie cut for her hair, and it looks very cute, and it looks very flattering on the actress who played Cinderella, but I don't think Cinderella at the ball looks fancy enough with a pixie cut. Like she should have worn a wig, or her hair should have been, magically transformed. But I guess since this fairy godmother didn't really do magic, maybe it worked more for it. But yes, I really enjoyed both the lead actors in this one. And the costumes and sets I liked, but I didn't love. They didn't look quite fancy enough at the ball for me. Like I said, I like the costumes to be way over the top, and like for there to be a color scheme and all of that. Overall, though, because of loving the two leads and just how the plot fell out in this one, and I totally forgot to mention until now, an element I really appreciated, Cinderella gets to know the prince prior to the ball without knowing that he's the prince. She's just a little bit oblivious, and like I said, they really play up the awkward element, and so she's kind of hanging out at this stream, and there he is, and she doesn't know that he's the prince. So I really like that when they give in a Cinderella retelling, when they give the prince more character development than he's given in, it's so terrible in like the 1950s cartoon. Just the lack of character development. He only has, I think, like 5 lines in the Disney cartoon. So when he's given abundantly more than that, I really appreciate it. Those were the most recent 3 films that I watched for this project. I'm having so much fun. I hope you're enjoying this. I think the next video I am going to be doing is comparing the 3 adaptations of the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical of Cinderella. And I will be back for another video soon. Have a lovely day, and talk to me in the comments.